welcome to Lunch Therapy. I'm your host, Joel Marshall, and I'm so happy to have you here today. This is Interview Friday, and this is on Fridays at noon. For those of you that might not know, we interview comedians, actors, philosophers, anybody that we might find interesting. And today we've got a fantastic comedian and actor, Mary Kennedy. Yes, so very excited to have Mary on the show. Hoi Danielle, hoi Todd, hoi. For those of you that don't know, we say hoi on the show instead of hi, the conventional hi. Just find it a little warmer, a little friendlier. Speaking of friendly, one of our viewers sent in some hummingbird video, and I wanted to share that with y'all because we call ourselves the Hummingbirds here at the show. Hoi, Camila Lopez. Glad to have you here. You're not on the Twitch today. There's no competition today, so people don't have to be on Twitch. But we do go out to Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places. You can catch our show anytime, and you can join in the chat room. Chatting is encouraged. Cats on the head are encouraged, as are hummingbirds. It's a little close-up of the hummingbird. So on this show, we make sure that we breathe. So don't forget to breathe out there. We're going to do 3 deep breaths at the beginning of the show. You love the gnome. Yeah, let's take a look at that gnome again. Oh, yeah, that is a nice gnome. High quality gnome. Remember that thing where people used to steal gnomes from people's front yards and then take pictures of them in exotic places as if they were hostages or as if they escaped, the gnomes escaped? I hope that tradition continues because it seems like a really good one. All right, so this is Lunch Therapy. Lunch Therapy is a show that's been on since COVID began, and it continues on. And this is the 524th episode. Woo, woo. Cats on the head are actually not a good idea unless you're a trained professional. Thank you, Kenyelle. Thank you for specifying that. Howard Aronin says, finally, Friday. Howard, I want to send a thank you to you for hooking us up with Mary Kennedy today here. She is, for those of you who don't know, she's an actor and a comedian, and she's a teacher, and she does one-woman shows. She's known for the show Shameless. She was in season 7. She played new Fiona, and I have been watching Shameless just because of Mary. Can't believe I missed that show, but I have it now. Danielle is high. Hoi. All right. Good to know. Good to know what's going on out there. Let's get into this thing called Lunch Therapy. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 Before we get into the show, I want to tell you that I've gotten myself some passive income. You see behind me, I've got a couple of oil wells because I got to finance this thing because, Lunch Therapy, it's expensive to do a show of this high quality. And these aren't really my oil wells. It's, there's some kind of scheme where you buy like a piece of the oil well, or maybe it's some kind of cryptocurrency. I'm not sure, but it hasn't really paid off yet. So what I need y'all to do, if you're a big fan of the show, or maybe you're new to the show, become a Patreon. Patreon.com/Joel Marshall. You can go there. You can give me like $3 a month. You'll see I've got Patreons already that are people that support the show. You can pay $3. You can pay $20 a month. You can pay nothing even if you want, just be a supporter of the show. I want to send a shout out to Mike Knox, Jay Patterson, Pam Palmieri, Neil Phillip, Seth Word for all being Patreons. And then if you just want to just buy me a cup of coffee or do something like that, send me some money to buy more stuffed animals, just go to Venmo @MythClub. There you have it. All right. So now we're going to breathe. So let's get into the breathing part of the show. I know a lot of you come here just to breathe because you don't know how anymore. And I'm going to remind you. So let's do it. A lovely waterfall behind us. I think that is in Bali, place that I would love to go someday. But right now I'm going to take you there virtually. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths. Just check the chat room here. Holy Mary, great to see you here, Mary. Another Mary is on the show today, Mary Kennedy. This is Mary Marks. I'm so glad to introduce the two of you. Woohoo! I need to up my Patreon patronage. Thank you very much, Pam. Appreciate it. All right, here we go. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Mary's in the green room with Boney. They are breathing along as well. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Boney, stop bothering the guest, okay? No. I know you're a big fan, okay? You don't have to say that, though. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. I don't know. I mean, it makes them uncomfortable. Let it go. I'm going to take one more breath because Boney was distracting me. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Todd Lee is asking, are there any updates on Bloss? Well, now that we've breathed, I'm going to tell you that I've heard from him, but he's not ready to come back to the show just yet. If you want to send him some love, please do. He's in the healing process right now. Got to get him back on the show. For those of you who don't know, Blas Lorenzo is my co-host on the show, especially really, really necessary because he keeps it all together and keeps Boney in line. But he's recuperating now from some illness, and so we want to send out love to him. I also want to let you know, Jay Patterson, who was on The Trust, she's a big star now. She's going to be on Lunch Therapy again, and she's bringing 2 of the stars of The Trust, Netflix The Trust. I think we're going to do it on a Tuesday. We don't normally do interviews on a Tuesday, but since it's like 3 of them, I think we're going to do it on a Tuesday. This show is on Tuesdays at noon, Fridays at noon. I'll let you know. I think we're getting Tolu and Winnie and Jay Patterson from The Trust. So if you haven't seen The Trust, check it out. It is a crazy ass show, I'll tell you. It is a crazy ass show about greed. And I want to say thank you to Kim Clevenger, too, for tipping off Jay Patterson. Both of them were on the show. Both of them met in Kansas when Kim went out there and did comedy. And then Kim was like, you better submit to this show, Jay Patterson, and she did. And so there you go. The Hummingbird Army is getting all over the place. It's great. Boney has no lungs. He seems self-conscious about it. I think that's why he bugs the guests while we breathe. And me too. Mama J. Yeah, J is called Mama J on The Trust. Anyway, check it out. Tolu and Winnie and Jay. I know. I'm making big promises here. It's going to happen. All right, let's just listen to some music, and then we're going to bring on Mary, and Boney will quit bugging her. This is one of our favorites on the show. This is Mystic Hong playing the Hong drum. He's from Spain. We love this guy. We love this guy. Someday we're going to get him on the show. But you know, I think it's possible because Spain is 7 hours of difference? That's not a big deal. Matt Wright is sending love and healing to Blas. Thanks so much, Matt. Hopefully Blas will show up maybe in the chat room. That would be cool. He did a while back, so He's on the mend. Don't worry. I believe in him. He's going to get himself well, but I think sometimes you have to rest. Sometimes you have to go through things, shitty things in life, and come out the other side. So I think Boney might be an anorexic. He might be. It's true. He's always hungry. Always. I think he might have some kind of digestive issues because he eats all the time, but can't gain a pound. Nickname in college was Mystic Hung. Wow, that's great. Great. That's great. Love to Bloss. Jenny Sykes is here. So happy. All right, you can enjoy Mystic Hung without a comedian jabbering in front of him on his channel, YouTube, Mystic Hung. Some people say Mystic Hang. They're wrong. Would be interesting to come home and have this happening on my roof. He is on a roof. I didn't even realize that. I was like, what's he by some kind of castle or something? And he's on somebody's roof. That's cool. Thanks, Pam. All right. Let's get this show on the road. All right, now it is time for me to introduce the guest. Very excited to have Mary on the show. She's a veteran comedian, and she's originally from Boston. I've got lighthouses behind me. I don't know why. I just feel like lighthouses are, I don't know, apropos somehow. Maybe I'll ask Mary why she brings lighthouses to my mind. But anyway, that's what we got here. She has appeared in numerous film, TV, stage roles, as well as in LA's popular comedy clubs. She's a big comedian. She's around town at Flappers and Laugh Factory and you name it, improv, wherever. But also she tours the country doing comedy as well. And of course, she does comedy in her hometown of Boston. She's very recognizable because she was on the show Shameless. Shameless, she was in the 7th season. She plays new Fiona, the replacement Fiona for the daughter Fiona. And she is just a riot on that show. You got to check it out if you haven't seen Shameless. I never saw it. I don't know how I missed it. It's ridiculous. It's films in Los Angeles. Great parts for me. Somehow I wasn't watching it, but now I am. Now I'm watching it. William H. Macy, we can talk to her about him and about John Levy and all the people that make that show. She's also been on Conan, ER, all kinds of national commercials, some of them for Star Wars. I don't know. How is it for Star Wars? I don't know. But also, she was on CBS Sports with Jim Rome for all you football heads out there. She also has been in the film Shattered, Creative Differences, and the short Girl Calling and The Layover. She's also in the theater. She was in the theater production of Afterglow, the 80s musical experience with the original, what are the gorgeous ladies of wrestling? Is that what GLOW stands for? Yep. The legendary wrestling manager, Jackie Stallone. That's what she played. And you know what? She received 2 Broadway World Award nominations. Not only that, but she's got her show, and it's coming up, and there's a link in the show notes. She does a show called Midlife Mood Swing that she's been doing over the last few years, and it's a one-woman show. It's over at the Whitefire Theatre. So click on the link below after you subscribe and go to that show. All right, let's get into this thing. Interview Friday with Mary Kennedy.
Fitzy, what do you think about Midlife Mood Swing? That's my show, February 11th at the Whitefire Theatre. Fitzy, you gonna get your tickets? Yeah, okay. Everybody, it's Mary Kennedy. Midlife Mood Swing, I just got out of rehearsal, starring yours truly, Mary Kennedy, and directed by Charlene Ward. It will be at the Whitefire Theatre, February 11th. at 7 p.m. That's a Sunday. If you Google Whitefire Theatre, you go to their website and you'll see my show, Midlife Mood Swing. Buy your tickets, you guys. Buy your tickets. It will sell out. So it is our first stop on our spring tour. The first stop, February 11th in Los Angeles. The show, if you thought you saw it before, there's 2 new songs and tons of new characters, I'd say. A couple new characters, how's that? As an actress, and a writer, I write up some new characters and then I get to act them out. So you get to see it for the first time at the Whitefire. And then I go to Denver March 28th and 29th to Denver Community College. And then after that, we will be at United Solo Theater Festival in New York City on Theater Row. Cool. So keep looking at all my socials, M. Kennedy Comedy, for more information. I'm excited to see all of you guys, and buy your tickets. Buy your tickets. All right. Bye.
All right, Mary Kennedy, welcome to Lunch Therapy.
I'm so relaxed. I did deep breathing. Boney was very comforting. He showed me my chakra system. Really? So I feel, he actually wasn't, we created a bond, Boney and I.
I'm so glad to hear it, because sometimes he agitates the guests, but it takes a special kind of person to be friends with Boney. A lot of patience, a lot of pillows, because when you hug him, it almost hurts sometimes. It's so pokey.
Yeah.
Mary Kennedy, have you always been funny? This is my question for you to lead out the interview.
Yes. Yeah. Always. No, I come from an Irish Catholic family back in the Boston area. I'm originally from Marblehead, Massachusetts, which is the birthplace of the American Navy and has an incredible lighthouse. So, Joel, your psychic, was moving. Thank you.
Knew it.
Yes. So 20 minutes north of Boston in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And I always was funny. I mean, I am related to the Kennedy family in Hyannisport. We're third cousins twice removed, all the tragedy, none of the money. And ta-da-da. And I lived in a little town, and my mom was a church organist and had a band, which we'll talk about. So I was an altar server. So on the altar of the Catholic Church, I would crack jokes with my other altar server. Mm-hmm. And so at a very early age, I was cracking jokes.
So your mom was a performer?
Yeah.
Really? And so you grew up just watching your mom perform, so it's a natural thing for you. But did you know you were going to be a comedian?
I didn't. I went to Emerson College in Boston. I was a theater acting major, and then I changed my major halfway through to theater education. Mm-hmm. And then I actually went behind the scenes because I thought I wanted to be a director or a producer, an artistic director. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in New York, I ended up doing an internship at Juilliard in stage management, and then I worked for them. I dated a guy when I was actually working for Equity. I moved from Juilliard to Equity, and I was representing actors in television and film contracts as a paralegal.
What?
So I thought I might go to law school. Yes. And I couldn't be an actor and represent these actors on Broadway. So I went into comedy from a boyfriend of mine who thought I was funny. And then the performance bug came back, and I left a possible lucrative career in lawyering. And I started being a comic and went freelance, and the rest is history. And then I went back to acting, and then I moved to LA. So,
wow, that's so interesting. What an extraordinary path. Tell us a little bit about your mom and how she performed. I didn't understand what you said about it.
So my mom was a piano player.
She was a piano player.
And she started lessons with our crazy Aunt Mary.
Yeah.
On her father's side, who taught her piano. And so from the age of 5 on, my mom played piano. And she met my dad, who was an insurance salesman. And you can hear all of this in Midlife Mood Swing. Yeah. It's funny, actually. He was an insurance salesman, and he didn't understand performing. They got married, and my father made my mother leave her piano at my grandmother's house.
Oh.
So my mother
Yeah.
got a little keyboard and put it up in my room at our new house. And my mother would come up and play at night, and she'd also play the guitar like in secret. And so then when my parents and my mom dragged me to my first audition at 5 behind my father's back.
So your mom was like a closeted musician because of your dad.
Yeah, she was a closeted musician. And then there was an opportunity for her to play in our folk group at our church.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mother basically would go to church, and I'd go with her, and I'd sing in the folk group. And then when my parents got divorced, the first thing my mother did was go to the local music store and get keyboards and amplifiers. And she started a band when I was 10.
That is so cool.
And
what kind of a band was it?
Huh?
What kind of a band was it?
It was a wedding band. It was,
was a wedding
my
band.
mother was the house wedding band for the medieval King's Grant Inn on Route 1 in Danvers, Massachusetts.
Oh,
she did 5 weddings a weekend, and they were called the Mood Swings.
Oh, wow. So this is where your show sort of begins. That's so cool. That is so cool. Yeah. So what was it about that made you go, well, I'm not going to be a performer. I'm going to be behind the scenes. And it took, a while before you became a comedian. Why did you think you wanted to work behind the scenes?
Well, I had a teacher in college, and Emerson was amazing, by the way, but I had a teacher who told me straight out that I don't think you have what it takes. No. And I listened to him, and I didn't listen to all the other people who said, I think you have what it takes. And even with Kristen Linkletter talking about, your vodcast podcast with, freeing your breath. Kristen Linkletter is about freeing your natural voice.
Was she at Emerson? Kristen
Yeah,
Linkletter?
she was our lead actress, lead teacher,
Oh,
master
was
teacher.
So great. She was so great. And her son is such a good actor too.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
So she even said to me, you can be an actress if you want it. And I was too scared.
Wow.
So I hid, and then
that's
so I guess
went
my
underground because of that idiot. I mean, I don't want to say idiot, but I don't know him. But you definitely went underground. And Kristen Linkletter is like the greatest voice teacher of our century, our previous century too. And I was at Shakespeare and Company that Kristen Linkletter was a part of. So we used to do all that vocal training and breathing. It was probably where I started breathing. I began breathing. They slapped me on the butt when I was born, but I didn't breathe until I met Kristen Linkletter.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that you had that encouragement from her, Yeah.
But I didn't listen. And then finally I did. And then the rest is history, I guess.
Oh my God. Okay. This is art therapy. So I'm wondering, your first experience as a comedian, I mean, I imagine it must have been good because it just kind of set you off on a path, right? Can you tell us about your first experience as a comedian?
Yeah, I took classes at American Comedy Institute in New York.
Oh, we love them.
Yeah, they're great. And Mary Domino, a good friend of mine from New York. She doesn't realize this, but she was kind of a mentor at the beginning. And so they booked the class show, and I did the class show at Stand Up New York. And Tommy Savitt, who performs all over the world, saw me and said, you're really funny. Why don't you come down to New York Comedy Club and produce with me? And I produced with him. And then Al Martin made me a host on Thursday nights from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Best comedy college ever. And then I started producing. I started working. Lisa Lampanelli was my coach for a time. I came up with Jessica Kirshen. I came up with Dana Eagle. There was a group of women that came up during that time who really were super supportive. Kareth Foster, Jenny Aaron, Marla Schultz. And we all sort of cheered each other on.
So it was a very supportive community. Like sometimes it seems like comedians are a little bit competitive to a fault in certain circumstances.
Tracy Esposito was super supportive,
So and sometimes I think people think they need that, but they They don't. They need the other thing, because otherwise you might crawl back into a hole again, just like that guy made you crawl into a hole. You might do that. Not to say that working behind the scenes is crawling into a hole, but only if you really want to be a performer, you probably should. And you can do both. Lots of people do. I mean, we were talking about Kim Clevenger. Certainly Adam Lieblein does that as well. People work on both sides of the thing. But you have to, why do you think we do this? Like comedians. I mean, in general, like what is the psychological makeup of a comedian that they feel like they want to go up on stage and talk and make people laugh?
Well, let's just be honest. A lot of us came from, I came from the pseudo Kennedy family. Let's just say some of the problems that the Kennedys had on the big scale, we had on the small scale. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, and I think for me, I would just observe my crazy life, and living near Boston is all a bunch of new material too. I think I felt like the need that I needed to get it out of my system, you know, and talk about it. And, you know, I think for many comics, it starts at therapy. I think that can be a dangerous thing if you keep doing it in therapy, because you're not necessarily going to grow. And you also have to think of yourself as a viable product in order to keep your career for as long as I've kept my career. What keeps people coming back? They're not going to keep coming back if I'm, you know, working out therapy all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I think it started that way. And then I think there's nothing in the world like killing on stage. There's nothing like that. I've never experienced it anywhere but doing stand-up. I'm very close to it when I do my one-person show, but even on set, you don't deliver a line on set. I love being on set. I could be on set every day.
Yeah.
You don't deliver a line on set and leave feeling like you've been to the gym or you've moved mountains, or the feeling you get from a good set is so incredible.
I want to ask you about that. I mean, just kind of jumping around, but I want to ask you about Shameless, that set, because watching the show with new eyes, I've never really even watched the show until I watched you on the show. I'm like, wow, this is a different this thing has a totally different feel to it than other shows that I watch. Like, it feels like people are really having fun on this set. And what was that like?
Well, it was my biggest break of late. I did ER. I was recurring on ER back in the early thousands, like in 2005, 2006. Thank you, John Levy.
I was going to say, is that the connection, John Levy? Like, yeah. What an incredible talent he is. Whew.
Yeah. So he saw me back then. And, you know, what is great about him is he has a long memory. And once you book a show through him, he would call you back to producers. So I went back to producers several times on several different shows. And then Shameless came up, where they needed a out-of-work prostitute who worked for food named New Fiona, who was the non-improved new Fiona. And there was some nudity. And I was like, sure. And I adore John.
Yeah.
I adore his office. I trust him. And so I booked the job.
So they told you up front there was going to be nudity. There was going to be nude Fiona.
Yeah, we had to sign.
Yeah. So you knew that was going to happen. Was that something that you had to really decide to do? Was it a big decision for you?
I had 2 kids via C-section, and all of Westwood practically saw me. So I was like, no, I'm fine.
That's hilarious.
I said, you know what? It's fine. It was actually really empowering. I mean, and the set, I mean, I didn't do the nude scene the 2 nude scenes my first day. I came to set at 5 a.m. the first day, and, you know, Bill Macy put his hand on my shoulder and said, welcome to Shameless. He was supportive.
That's a really different experience.
Yeah,
you know
totally
what I mean?
supportive. And yeah, no, I mean, he's from the theater. I mean, you know, he worked with David Mamet. He comes from Chicago theater. He gave, after I did my walking out of the shower naked, when we were about to go to lunch, he said, you know, everybody, you know, hold on, let's give Mary a big round of applause for her first nude scene on Shameless. We all have to do it. And, everybody grips, the director, the cinematographer, the whole cast that was working with us, gave me like a standing ovation. So he didn't have to do that.
No, not at all. And it's a very free show. There's a lot of nudity that goes on. And I don't know, it sort of is the feel for the show, because there's a lot of other things that go on too that we have to sort of grapple with, like the fact that the lead character's like drunk all the time, doing drugs, but we're still like cheering for him, even though he's very destructive of the people around him. But we love that guy. And there has to be that kind of good feeling, I think, amongst the people that are doing the show, and also trust. I would think trust is huge.
Yeah, it was, the wardrobe person that they gave me, she was wonderful. We said a prayer before I walked out of the bathroom.
Really?
and then by the sixth take, I was like, all right, you want me to do it again? Like, it was,
after a while it becomes your costume, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's just your costume.
Ian McDonald was my director. He was also the one that cast me in Shameless. He was the director that said yes. It was a great moment for me and for my body issues. Like, I've struggled with my weight my whole life. I talk about that in my show. Mm-hmm. To walk out, be nude, and then have Bill Macy, applaud me for it.
Yeah.
And it was a closed set too. Like, only the director saw me, like, and then the world.
That's great, though. That's great. And what a great character. You were on it for like 6 episodes or something like that. And you were on all the time. The other thing I think about that set too is, like, when you have a large group of people on the set a lot, there were a lot of people acting while you were on the stage. I mean, on the sound stage or whatever. To be able to do that, like you need people that know how to handle theatrical production type things, because it's not just a 2-shot of 2 people. Everybody's contributing. And you know what? A lot of what you contribute to the show is about your reaction to what's going on too. And I notice you throughout the show really listening to what's going on and really reacting.
Well, that was the cinematographer.
Really?
That was her.
Really?
Yeah, she was amazing. The cinematographer for those shows. And they said, and her assistant said to me too, the DP said, we used you as transition. Your facial reactions were so good that we used you as a transition instead of throwing music in there, which was, such an incredible compliment. You know what I mean? So, so I have to say to them that they really used me well, and not everybody does that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Did you get most of your acting training at Emerson?
Yes and no. I do want to do a shout out though to Lauren Iaconelli, because she was the cinematographer.
She's the cinematographer.
Bravo to her.
Yeah.
She was great. And that's who sort of, created more to a character of New Fiona.
Yeah.
Like, and they're so collaborative.
How interesting too that the cinematographer would have that kind of contribution. You know what I mean? It takes a special. I mean, clearly the people who worked on that show are special. As far as it's a unique experience. I remember one time like being a stand-in on a movie, and the cinematographer was teaching me about acting for the camera. Like, they don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're like, this is what this shot is. This is what that is. Here's how you hit your mark, all that stuff. So a lot of times when you're in a kind of a supportive group, you can learn a lot, and then it also just shows in the production, I think. I wish we had a picture of her.
And I became a better actor. You asked about acting training. To be like this far away from Bill Macy and watch him work, and then I have to say a line after that. Like, you have to be really good and really prepared. And it was like going to grad program for acting. And I did get training from Emerson. I did all the acting core, even though I wasn't a BFA acting major. And then after that, I went and worked at Juilliard. Now I knew deep inside my soul I wanted to be an actor. There was a piece of me that goes, well, if I go to New York and I decide I want to be an actor, that I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
And I made sure that I got myself aligned with the drama program. I ended up assistant directing their juries for agents at the end of their 4 years. So I was assistant directing stuff. I made sure I went to every single special class with industry. Like Patrick Stewart came one day. I made sure I was in the theater to watch that. I got to work with all of those actors. I worked with Anthony Mackie when I was there. I worked with David Denman. I worked with a lot of incredible actors that you see today. And I just became a sponge while I was at
I did the
Juilliard.
same
And then
thing. I did the same thing at Steppenwolf. I got out of college. I didn't realize I was not, going to be in the ensemble at Steppenwolf or going to Juilliard or anything like that. So I just went to Chicago and I knocked on the door and I just soaked it up for years, and I ended up understudying and being a stage manager and all these things. I learned so much, but it was like an internship that I made.
It's great.
So I think people out there need to know that too. If you want to be, learn about something like that, you don't have to go in the traditional front door. You can go in another way and soak it up and make your way, and you don't have to follow a specific path. And that's one of the things about what we do as actors and as comedians is there's not necessarily a specific path. Would you say that?
No. And listen, Sada Ramirez, I'm going to use her as an example, or them as an example, was a Juilliard and, wasn't getting the ingenue type roles, wasn't doing Shakespeare in the Park. Kate Rigg is another graduate of Juilliard. They made their own path, and Sada Ramirez, had an incredible recurring role. I mean, I know a lot of people, have had their thoughts about And Just Like That for the sequel to Sex and the City. But what an incredible role, for Sada. And to see the transformation of her of where they were at Juilliard to now is pretty amazing. Kate Rigg too. Kate Rigg does variety and does acting and musicals and comedy. I mean, so Juilliard was a great growth place for me. And then it brought me to Michael Howard Studios when I finally decided I wanted to be an actor. And I did their sort of conservatory for a year. And
do you have a specific technique that you use? Yeah. Then you moved to LA. Is that what you did?
I moved to LA after Michael Howard Studios. I used Meisner, Stanislavski, Viola Spolin for my
improvisation.
Yep. I also, maybe they'll call it the Mary Kennedy technique. I don't know. For a character, I have to dress to my shoes. Actually, Paul Jasek, who's my co-teacher, artistic director for Youth Acting Biz in the Biz Studio, I have to dress to my feet, meaning I find my character in their clothing, in their makeup, in their hair, in their, maybe if they have a little bit of an accent, and then I pull from my own personal experience. That's New Fiona was created from going to school near the combat zone where I would see prostitutes dressed in parkas. And it would be at 7-Eleven getting cigarettes with an amazing Boston accent. That's how I created New Fiona.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, the way she dresses, was that your decision or was that the director's decision? Or because it's unusual.
So when you audition, they give you sort of character specs for people that aren't in the business. And they said, what I got out of it is it's a prostitute who let herself go. And so she's not a high profile, call girl. So when I went to the audition, so this is what I did. I consulted with Paul Jasek, who's done wardrobe and things like that. And we put together this skirt. We threw on some boots. And we gave myself like a little bubble jacket or like a black vest thing and then like a shirt underneath. And it didn't really match. And I came in, and when I saw all the other women, and this can do kind of a thing to people's brains, actor brains, all the women were dressed as high-priced call girls. They had the fishnets and the makeup and the lashes and the nails. And I walked in and I looked like a mess. And that's exactly what they wanted. And I think they used, again, they might have had that idea and that's why I booked the job, or they saw what I did and they said, we want that. So when I went into the, you go to the wardrobe and they dress you, there was all these bras on a table, skirts and boots and like a chamois shirt. And I was like a flannel and I go, oh, there she is. So I think I had something to do with it, but our costume designer is so amazing. I don't want to take that away.
But you do. Sometimes we fall into these stereotypes because of the way they describe characters when we audition, like you say. And so we end up falling in there when actually maybe we want to go more real. I know when we did our movie Equal Means Equal, we rode around with the police to investigate child sex trafficking, basically. And so we were going through and looking. They were busting people or talking to pimps and prostitutes, and it was always surprising because the police officer would be like, "There's a pimp," and we'd be like, "That's a pimp," because we expected the hat with the big feather or whatever it was, Huggy Bear, and that wasn't what we expected. And also the prostitutes we did was not what we expected the prostitute to look like. So sometimes we got to get ourselves out of that box of the description of the character. And also sometimes we can if we do get ourselves out of the box, we can show them something that'd be like, oh shit, I'm going to have the other prostitute dress like that too. You can inspire creativity amongst the whole thing.
And when I left the audition, I kind of had an inkling that I booked it. Like I was like, those auditions you have where you go, yeah, I nailed it. Right.
Yeah. I've never had one of those. I'm just kidding.
But you know what I mean? Like I kind of was like, I nailed it.
Yeah.
But I could leave that audition with my head held high and go, if I don't book it, that gave John Levy a look into something that maybe he'd not seen before.
Yeah.
That if I'm not right for this, then maybe they'll think of me for something else. So I was so proud of myself when I left that audition.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do.
I love that. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about your one-person show and how you developed that and what. First of all, okay, so what made you decide to do a one-person show?
Well, there's been many iterations of this final midlife mood swing. So my mom is a huge inspiration for me for my comedy and this show. And I had this character of her that I did on stage as a comic, and I sort of melded that into my first one-person show. I did that first one-person show, then I did another one-person show, and it wasn't really hitting. It didn't feel like a play to me. It felt like one of these directors that I really respect back home, Ann Lucas, said to me, it feels like a comedy set still. And so I needed to do like a beginning, middle, and an end. And after my mother passed in 2015, I decided I wanted to bring my mother back to life. And I created this sort of first version of Midlife Mood Swing about her band. And I brought it to my hometown, and my mom's partner, Kathy, who she'd been married to before she passed, said to me, she goes, I'm so happy you brought my wife back to life.
Oh my God, that's so great. What an amazing compliment that is. And what a service.
Yeah, but it put me into a very interesting place because after I did that show in 2018, I said, okay, I'm done. I don't ever need to do this again. Like mom came back to life. It's kind of like Jesus. After 3 days, my mother came back to life. And then, anyway, that's a Catholic joke for you guys out there. So I just put it away. And then I was sort of called to be of service, and I wrote a 2-person play about my mom. And my friend Charlene, and my mom was struggling with terminal liver disease. And my friend Charlene from college was involved in this, and we had no idea. And she ended up directing this 2-person show. And then Charlene, this was before the first one I did. So she helped me with that first part, that first show I did about my mom. And then after we did it, she told me, you know what, you need a rewrite. And I trusted Charlene enough that I did a rewrite. And then this version was born, and I did it last year for Whitefire Solofest. And because now I talk about being a mom without my mom around, and I'm mothering teenagers, and I have no tools some days, and so it's about talking to my mom, and I bring her back to life, but she's really to help me kind of navigate through marriage and midlife and motherhood and menopause. So it's really a coming of age story. That's funny, everybody.
Yeah.
And she comes back to life again, but in a different way.
Oh, that's great. And so people can see this next month. The tickets, you can buy tickets in the show notes. There's a link in the show notes. Please come down there and check this out. Let's go on to the next topic before we're almost running out of time, unfortunately. Okay. This is so cool. You've got such an incredible... I want to ask you about being a teacher, because you're also a teacher, right?
Yeah, I teach. I run the Biz Studio and Youth Acting Biz, a professional training ground for young actors and adults. Basically, I started that because I'm a really bad waitress.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to make a living and have some kind of steady thing going on. And so sometimes it's like, maybe I should use my skills.
My skill set. I'm not a bad waitress in a movie. I did Girl Calling where I played a waitress who got
all right.
But I'm not a great waitress in the real world. I'm really bad. But
I'm a terrible waiter, so I know the feeling. Yeah. I was a waiter for one night, and that was it. My friends didn't even tip me. My friends.
I understand. So anyway, I took my theater ed degree, and I decided to coach biz kids, like, kids who are professional actors. And I had classes so they'd be working when they're not working. I coached parents on the business because I had my business training from Equity and all that backstage fun stuff. And then now I have a fully formed adult program where I have people doing a writer's room for stand-ups. I have people developing the one-person show, comics and actors. And then I have a crash course commercial and scene study class. So that's what we do. We're all over the country, and we're starting a class in London online. And I've been running strong probably my kids program for the last probably 20 years and my adult program for the last 6 years.
That's incredible. So people can go to thebizstudio.us. I know also I have friends who are actors, and then their kids start to act. And then they all of a sudden become the reader, the coach, the driver, the on-set teacher, everything. And they're like not getting paid for it. And they don't know how that works. Do they continue just not getting paid for it and the kid's making money for college or whatever, and they got to take off work? Do you talk to them about that kind of stuff too? Because that's pretty complicated.
Yeah, because under 18, they have a Coogan account. So the money has to go into a Coogan account. It's a percentage. What I tell parents is, create an acting fund for the kid. So you're not pulling money out of your own life. Yeah. The kid wants to take an acting class, you pull it out of the commercial earnings that they made. And you can write off all of their I'm not an accountant, but you can write off all of that stuff at tax time. It's hard. I mean, I think the big overarching note I have for parents who have no desire to be actors, okay, it's a little bit easier. I think for those that are living through their kid, which there are a lot actually, make sure that your kid really wants to do this.
Yeah.
Because, and if your dream is to become an actor.
Do that. Yeah. But a lot of times these kids are really good because their parents have already had all these years of experience, and maybe they didn't get the roles or whatever, but they're still good, and they're still good at coaching. So a lot of times they're participants in this, and you know how it is. The reader doesn't really get paid, doesn't get paid. And so they're doing all these readings with them. And so they have to figure it out in some way. And then, if it's a healthy thing, if the kid is really wanting to do it, then you want to support them. Matt Wright says, such rich advice for anyone's higher education journey, no matter what form it takes. Look for the extra opportunities in and out of the classroom. Make the place work for you. That is really, that's a good takeaway from today. Kamala says, are you able to handle special needs kids?
Yes. So here's something. I actually teach special ed when I'm subbing for a certain district, which I'm not going to say what it is, TK to 2, because my son has autism. My son was diagnosed with autism when he was 2. So as a parent, I had to navigate that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, in my acting program, when I have a kid who has autism or Asperger's or is neurodivergent, when they have a script in their hand or they're playing piano or drums, my son plays drums, their stuff, in quotes, goes away. So I've seen it with my son playing drums. He rocks still. He's 15. He rocks. He twitches. There's a lot of stuff he does. When he plays the drums, it all goes away. And it stays with him for a while. So yes, I do work with special needs, and that is my love work like that. There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's part of it.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. I think we're going to have to, yes, I'm not even being sarcastic. I think that's beautiful.
No, it is. And
yeah. So I think we're going to have to end the interview now. This has been such an incredible interview, so many different facets. I want to say, though, I don't know how you do it all. Can you give us a little bit of an idea? Because you've got kids, you're doing stand-up, you're teaching, you're doing a one-person show, you're on television. How do you keep your head in the game? How do you keep your mind right? How do you not get exhausted?
Oh, I get exhausted. Here's the thing. Mary, who doesn't have a headshot. My husband, some of my friends think he's a saint. My husband is so supportive. I mean, he moved to Los Angeles sight unseen. He moved here. He lived in San Diego for a little bit, and he supports me. And he bakes, he cooks, wow. He runs the kids around. He's an incredible partner. And then, as my mother said, you give the personality to the family. She goes, you're the comic relief. My husband is super supportive. That's how I do it. I also have hobbies. I also have a therapist. That's really important. Mm-hmm. I also laugh. I mean, and there are sometimes I don't do it perfectly. Like, I think becoming a parent took off that, oh my God, I have to be perfect. So there are days I don't feel like I'm doing it all.
Yeah.
I'm human.
Do you do anything like meditation or yoga or anything like that?
Yes, I meditate. I try to meditate 30 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. I sometimes find myself falling asleep 15 minutes in. Mm-hmm.
Some people say that that's just a better sleep. That at least the transcendental meditation people say, if you fall asleep, then you're just going to have an incredible little nap.
I do that. I spiritual.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to if I feel like I've done something wrong, I try to really talk about it at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I forgave. Here's the thing. This is it. I forgave my parents. I will throw that out there to everybody. I really forgave my parents. In death, they did the best they could, and I really try to live in today and not in my past.
So it is really exhausting to hold on to things, isn't it? I mean, it's just exhausting. Yeah. Who needs it?
And it doesn't help the work. You can't be holding on to that and be a good actor, be a good mom, be a good wife, be a good human. So.
Keep the channel open. Keep the channel open, not get the static off the lines or whatever they say. So Kamala says, thank you for sending your website to my friend. Thank Wonderful you. From Howard Aronin. Thank you, Howard.
Howard.
You're amazing. Thank you for being so great. Thank you for the wonderful interview. Yes, thank you, Mary, for being on the show. It has been an absolute gift. Now I'm going to give you a gift of a band called the Running Mates. They're going to be singing a Joni Mitchell song. This is one of my favorites. We can dance it out, and then the show will be over. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks, Howard, again. She's everywhere. There are 5 Mary Kennedys. I think so. After researching her for this show, I was like, wait a minute. Is that how many Kennedys? I know there's a lot of Kennedys out there. Maybe there's maybe there's some doppelgangers.
I've been cloned.
You have been cloned for sure. All right, dance break time.
Thank you, Joel.
This is a great couple called Running Mates. I think you would like them. I gotta get my green screen out of here. Running Mates, they're a couple.
They pay paradise and put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Well, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They pay paradise and put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, ba, ba. Ooh, ba, ba, ba. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum.
Up and coming comedian.
And they charge the people $1.50 just to see them.
Mitchell, she's incredible.
Well, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They pay paradise and put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, ba, ba. Ooh, ba, ba, ba. Hey, I'm a farmer, put away the DDT now. Give me spots
Right,
on my
next week
apples,
we're gonna be
believe me,
having,
the birds and the bees.
Jay Patterson, I think it's next week. I don't know. Might be the following.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know
Happy
what
birthday
you've got
to,
till it's gone?
Jay.
They pay
It's on Monday.
paradise and put up a parking
Pave
lot.
Paradise, put up a parking lot.
Oh,
Go to
don't
Running
it
Mates
always seem
YouTube
to
channel,
go
subscribe.
that you don't know what you've
Go
got till
to
it's gone.
Mary's
They
show.
pay paradise
Tickets
and put up
are
a
available in the
parking
show
lot.
notes.
Ooh, ba, ba, ba.
This has been Lunch Therapy, Interview Friday.
Ooh, ba, ba, ba.